in India, but across the world. And as you know, the subject is electric vehicles, their future and their adoption in India. And we do have the good luck, the fortune of having experts who not only represent leading organizations in the business, who are industry experts in their own right. Before I introduce our experts, our speakers to you, let me quickly give you a backgrounder of today's topic. The global EV market never looked this good. Global EV sales grew by 38% in 2020 and then more than doubled during the following year. The International Energy Agency, IEA, estimates that EV sales will hit an all-time high in 2022, that is this year. India's EV story is no less exciting. The nature of the growth in India, however, is different from the rest of the world, as it happens for every other Indian sector, for every other sector in India. In India, most EVs are two-wheelers that are getting sold, which account for over half of the sales volume. The next popular segment is three-wheelers, which are not only making travel efficient and green, but also providing jobs to a large number of people, particularly in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Now, today we have a pantheon of speakers who are going to speak on the topic, and let me quickly introduce you to them. We have Mr. Abhijeet Sinha, National Program Director, Ease of Doing Business. Mr. Samir Jindal, Director Engineering, MG Motor India. Mr. Manoj K. Sundaram, Head Business Development, ZEISS. Mr. Uday Narang, Chairman, Omega Seiki Mobility. Mr. Narayan Kumar, Group Chief, Industrial Devices Division, Panasonic Life Solutions India. Mr. Raman Upmanyu, Manager Business Development, Marposs India Private Limited. Now, the first question and the obvious question that I'm going to ask our speakers is, as they say in the movies, what was your first experience like with an EV? I'll start with Mr. Sinha. Abhijeet, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, and very good morning to all of you. It's a memorable moment for me when I first time drove EV. I have 3 electric bikes and 1 electric car, and all of them, they keep on changing because we have to review many of them. Many of them, they come for testing. And my first experience given me a message that this particular vehicle has a different type of feel, different type of vibration, which you actually do not feel. And that vibration makes somebody more comfortable the way they look at it as an ICE engine. And if somebody can, if there is a possibility for the next generation that they do not have to buy, but still they can use EV, then it would be a faster mode of adoption. This is what we took over in NHEV and tried to give a vehicle like cars and SUVs to people to go to Jaipur and Agra without even owning it, without even buying it. So that's the message which project also gives, and that EV has given me, that next generation is not going to look at EVs as a product. They are going to look at EV as a service.
Thank you. Thank you, Abhijeet, for sharing that with us. Narayan, what has been your experience?
Well, I guess 3-4 years back, the first experience came when I visited our headquarters in Japan. So it happened that the transit vehicle using was the lithium battery of Panasonic, and it was the Tesla Model 3. When I sat actually, so you can't feel that whether the vehicle has kind of started or it is still in motion. Coming back to India, I think the two-wheeler thing, which I was just mentioning a few minutes back, I think that's how I drove one. It gave a very good experience, and following of course, the four-wheeler vehicle, which is introduced by some leading OEMs now. I think overall, if you see the overall experience, you get a feel that you are part of a very sustainable ecosystem. While we are moving from airports back to our homes, I think you can see a lot of cabs also moving on the EV side now. So you get a real good feel. And as we move forward, I think the ecosystem seems to be evolving quite well.
Thanks,
Great
Narayan.
overall. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Narayan. Samir, what has been your experience?
Yeah, good morning all. So I experienced EV almost 3-4 years back when we have decided to launch first electric vehicle in our portfolio in MG Motor, which was a ZEISS EV. And when it came for testing to me, it was so smooth, like Mr. Narayan also said, when we start the vehicle, we don't feel it is started. So that was the thing. And then when we drove, the initial torque is so high, which we don't get in IC or diesel engines. And that's from the motor characteristics. And all this makes EV a very fun to drive and also very quiet vehicle for people. And it's really a class in itself to drive such a vehicle and introduce it in India. And it's quite successful now. We are second in the country with the ZEISS EV vehicles.
Thanks so much, Samir. Uday, what has been your experience? You cannot. Okay, my voice is not getting. Oh, you are on mute, Uday.
Okay, I just wanted to.
Hey.
Yeah, great. Sorry to be 2 minutes late. It just had some technical
No
issues.
worries.
I apologize. Look, I'm born electric, and I don't know, maybe for me, electric was something that really drove me. Almost 8 or 9 years ago. I've been. I'll be honest with you. I've been I have driven Raver. I don't know if you know, a long back. God bless Chaitan. I think he was early before the times. Otherwise, he would have been today's Elon. But he's doing great work in Sun. But my point is that, I've been involved in this journey for quite some time in the United States. I've been involved, in electric vehicles in the United States. Then I obviously decided to come to Asia. In the 3-wheelers, the 2-wheelers. We've come out. We're coming out with our 4-wheelers in the cargo space. I have been more focused on. I think the largest amount of pollution comes from transport sector. So I really focused on that than on the passenger. I think MG and everybody here is doing a fantastic job. I respect him for that. But I think for me, how do I, bring, with vehicles in Europe, in the United States, I've spent a lot of time in ASEAN, now I'm bulling in Africa. So, I've come through a long time through this journey. What excites me is when we first started this journey, we was like Forrest Gump. We were running by ourselves, and now a lot of people are running. And what is more exciting for a person like me, who is so driven for green energy and sustainability, is where all the big boys and girls, MG, Tata, Mahindra, everybody's joined this game. And what will happen is now that, with what's happening in Europe right now in 2030 to 2040, I see, the IC game is going to be shut down. Obviously, there'll be vehicles down the road, but I think everybody joining this will make a benefit to only one person, which helps me, is the consumer. Better products, safer products, and better quality. So anyway, it's been a long journey. I hope I have the energy for the next 50 years. I know we've got a lot of young panelists here, so I hope I can keep up with them. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Uday. That's very encouraging to hear. Manoj, what has been your experience? Yes, Manoj, you are mute. Manoj, yes.
My first experience with EV was in the US. So that was in the second week of September 2016. I landed in the US and I was picked up by my friend in a Tesla. I never realized the power of Tesla. I just told him that, okay, you have a huge LCD screen. Why do you have this? I mean, at the time, Tesla was not so popular and I didn't really feel, probably I was overwhelmed by the environment and the US and so on. A few days later, I was staying with him, and then I was next to his, a typical American home where you have a garage road, a parking spot, and so on. So we both were standing, and then he told me that, Manoj, can you move a little? The car is coming. I still remember the moment. I couldn't believe. I said, where is the car coming? Then I see the car is reversing itself of its own, with this fellow controlling it on his phone. And then, that was the moment I realized what is Tesla and what is EV and how it can be a big game changer. More recently, about 8 to 10 months back, during the COVID times, we had this last mile connectivity bikes. So some were installed in our home, and I took my boy on a ride And that was a more exhilarating moment when you can really feel the speed of a EV. So I think it works both ways at the higher end spectrum and also in the, for the kids and for commoners. So this is going to be a great game in the coming days.
Thanks so much, Manoj. Raman, your experience?
Honestly speaking with my viewers, first of all, thank you so much for providing me this chance. So honestly speaking with my viewers, I haven't drove the EV yet, but I have seen a lot of videos in the YouTube and comparison of the petrol engine and the EV cars over there. So as I saw there, and I believe that performance-wise, torque and acceleration of EV vehicles are really, really good compared to the petrol vehicle. Moreover, I haven't drove the electric vehicle, but yes, I have sat in one of them, like during my one of the cab rides. The best thing I like about EV vehicle is noise, because whenever you are inside the vehicle, you are not realizing that like you are sitting inside the vehicle. So the noise level is very, very, very minimum over there. But I would love to drive now the electric vehicle once in near future.
Awesome, Raman. Awesome. 3 cheers to that. While we are on the subject, I'd like to relate to my experience as well, and take use of this opportunity. So my experience also, as like you gentlemen, has been really exciting. And now I recently went to my hometown after many years, after the pandemic years, and my hometown is one of the in a part of the country which is not very well known, or which has the ill repute of having some of the most polluted cities in the world as far as air pollution is concerned. And it also has a lot of joblessness or unemployment. Now I went there after many years, and I saw a lot of young people and old people who used to pull cycle rickshaws in the recent past. And cycle rickshaw is just a nice name for a human-powered vehicle, which is kind of an exploitative thing, and one of the last vestiges of that practice remains in India and other parts of the world. So it really warmed my heart to see that almost everybody had taken to three-wheelers, electric three-wheelers, and it has become a sort of a social security cushion for a lot of people, youngsters as well as old people, and it brings down the level of air pollution and noise pollution. It really made me so happy to see this transformation just in a couple of years, that I am really a convert as far as an EV is concerned. So that was a great experience to me. Now we move to the second question of this panel, and now we talk business. Now the first point is, when we talk EVs, is the battery technology, which is at the core of this phenomenon. And I'll begin with Abhijeet as to what is the current situation as you see, and you do a lot of work, you do a lot of studies with battery technology in this part of the world. So this question has two parts for everyone. Is that one is, what is the current status of battery technology in the world as you see it, and what is the situation on the ground in India as we talk? Abhijeet?
Hi, very nice question, Anand. I think battery is growing in all parts of the world. People are trying to develop their own independencies rather than creating dependencies on the imports. We as a country in India also are trying to develop our own set and combinations of batteries. I may not be right person to say what is the development, because it's a now public-private development. After ACC and after PLI, this has now become the target for both government and private sector to come together and reduce your dependency on the lithium. One thing I would like to bring, because it's a very good esteemed panel, and we all should speak wherever we get time, that we mostly talk about 3% of lithium, which we are importing. 97% are still in India, but we are not in position to use or get that. 3% lithium is getting more attention than 97% of the other material. And we are second largest producer and also exporter of aluminum. But when it comes to use that grade of aluminum which we use into battery, we again have to import it. So why are we not developing 97% supply line? Second, if there is a possibility to develop a second type of battery, which is none other than lithium-ion battery, then the development is not going in the direction where we should go. However, other countries, they are also facing same situation where their dependencies on lithium are continuously getting reduced. One more important thing which is related to regulation. I come from the background of ease of doing business, and being national program director for ease of doing business, a lot of people come to me and they very clearly, very bluntly speak about their difficulties of doing business. And their prime difficulties of doing business at this stage of time is when we have one case of one incident of fire in any part of country. Regulation take place after around 6 to 8 months, because there has to be an investigation why that fire happened, and then after that investigation some new regulation might come. This is the industry assumption now. By the time you comply to next standard, the fire cannot be stopped. There would be another event of fire, and then new regulation will come. So this is a fight which I'm fighting with both my sides, with government also and with industry also, that why do not we produce, or why do not we create a behavioral standard? Now, very quickly, I'll tell you what behavioral standard is. Every battery should be connected to a remote device, to a cloud device, which is giving data of its daily charging, discharging, daily heat pattern. If it is, and few of them, they are partners, they are working with me, and they are having safer life. So any day when battery is showing a volatile pattern of heat or melting, swelling, anything, then at least that particular battery can be focused, their batch can be recalled, and if something happens to that battery, or if a certain fire incident happens, then we can have a small device which is called black box for the flights, can be kept inside the battery, which can keep 5-second data before the blast. Even till 5 seconds it can keep restore inside it, and after blast you can recover that small device, you can read what happened to battery. The fire was because of connector or wire or external impact or heat or sunlight, anything. The 6 months which you are spending in the investigation of that battery, what wrong went to it, is the very critical situation for the industry. People keep on blaming each other. People keep on creating speculations, and it very badly affects the growth of the industry. So if we can do these two things, that behavioral battery standards would be able to focus on that battery which is behaving abnormal, volatile, we can pull it out from the use so that nobody gets harmed. And second, all those batches of that can be pulled out. If these two things can happen, then any product or any two-wheeler or any three-wheeler which is under certification, which is submitted for certification, would not have a surprise standard. So these are two takes which I wanted to share, but we'll keep on contributing. Happy to contribute.
Thanks, Abhijeet. This is absolutely the most important, the most relevant and pertinent topic point in today's discussion of, because the battery technology and some incidents that keep on happening in such a large country as India, absolutely the news spreads like wildfire, and then suddenly people are shy and they hold back in adopting. So that's a great thing, and you absolutely hit the nail on the head that this is the way to go about it. Narayan, I seek your views on the battery technology as you see it in the world and on the ground in India.
Yeah, well, so while we talk EV, I think the first thing everything comes to the mind is the battery, because still it contributes about 35 to 40% of the total cost. Of course, I think with large economies of scale, that percentage will come down, but also on the contradictory side, when the volumes go up and the mining of the lithium goes down, then the overall cost still goes up. So I think that is one perspective. I think commenting on the battery technology, this is so one, of course, the lithium is at the core of the overall agenda from a perspective point of view, because energy density is something which large players would like to focus on, because you pack in more kind of energy per kg of the overall battery. I think having said that, there are 2 points you said in terms of, I think Abhijeet also rightly mentioned in terms of development of new technologies. And many players across the globe are also experimenting with a lot of other metal combinations. We hear even also of the sodium part. Uh, Whether we use lithium combinations or nickel or the other technologies, I think the central part is to look at from the overall availability from a country perspective. While we don't have a very strong lithium reserves in India, but of course, government, as I think, has made a lot of strides in terms of looking at assuring the safety of the reserves in the, for example, Latin American countries. I think that is a right step in that direction. I think more importantly, apart from the battery, because battery itself is just an energy source, the combination of the battery with a battery management system in totality, I think that makes a very well integrated, agenda that the industry and all the stakeholders should look at. So it is battery management system, which also includes devices. We call it as we call it also the battery disconnection unit. So there are a lot of products on the component side which help us, make this overall energy package or the energy architecture quite worthwhile. And as it moves on, I think this is where the direction I would personally feel. While the battery density will keep on going up, the cost will come down. But from an overall ecosystem point of view, we should not look at battery in isolation. It is a combination of the overall architecture that makes it quite worthwhile for all the players in the ecosystem, because I think that's how the system will further evolve.
Great insight, Narayan, the battery architecture, and thank you for addressing the point of battery safety also, which Abhijeet also spoke about very nicely. Samir, what is your view on the current battery technology and particularly the battery safety aspect of the gamut?
Yeah. So I think as Mr. Abhijeet rightly pointed out, we are focusing a lot on lithium and cobalt for imports, but other lot of raw materials which are available in India, like manganese, nickel, copper, aluminum, graphite, titanium, we should also look into exploring our own resources. Also on the alternate batteries, there are a lot of experimentation going out, and sodium is another aspect, sodium batteries which BYD has recently introduced. So all these developments definitely will help reduce a lot of dependent on lithium in future. And battery technology, as Narayan rightly pointed out, he's from Panasonic and he knows very well. So all this is a combination of BMS and different components. Also, I was talking to Honeywell last week, and they have a device called BAS. So that also prevents the thermal runaway and things like that for battery safety. So that is also very important in that terms. And I personally visited some of the battery suppliers like Exide Lanche in Gujarat. And we have a quite good infrastructure now to build up the batteries by ourselves, except for the cells, which we are dependent still on the import. And then other things like BMS and all, there are now companies developed who can develop this logic algorithm for safety aspects and other things. Wiring harness, connectors, high voltage, we can still get in India. And so all these things, if all the manufacturers focus on localizing it and build in India, I think this cost, what Narayan also mentioned, will start coming down slowly. And as the volumes will pick up, this will happen in future. For our new electric vehicle, which is coming in April, which is a small EV, we have also given to Tata for the assembly of the battery. So I think with all these aspects, and as you said, the safety aspect is definitely taken care. with all the tests done. And I was in last panel also with Abhijeet, where he was a part of BIS rolling out for cells and batteries. So I think all this implementation, and now we are doing AIS 038 revision 3 for all our batteries. So that will make definitely India a very safe place.
Thanks, Amir. I have a follow-up question that I'll put before the panelists after this this question is answered, because battery safety is something that we should address. It's a big thing. It's like the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. But now we have experts here and we have a stakeholder from policy also. I think we should kind of address that in our own way. But I'll come to that. I don't want you to digress from the main question, which is the status of the battery technology and its status in India. Uday, your views on battery technology? Uday, you're mute. Uday, you mute. Yes.
Trying to make sure there's some noise in the background somewhere else. So I was trying to keep the noise off. So the point is that
that should be mine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay.
We have an industrial complex next to our office.
No problem. My point is that battery safety, is extremely important. Not because of today. My view is that one life lost is too many. Okay, we have to take responsibility. It's great to see Panasonic. It's great to see MG, all the big, and obviously Abhijeet speaks heavily in this, in the space. My point is that as OEMs, we've been in business for quite some time, but in the name of startups and in the world of quick money, we are forgetting that this is the automobile industry. It takes time, it's not only about, and I know I was a hedge fund manager for 35 years, so they'll all hate me for it because I say this. It's not about doing one round and then increasing the value to the second round and the third round. What I would say is to all the young men and women in this country that when you build products, making two-wheelers or a three-wheeler or a four-wheeler and saying that I'm going to sell 1 million vehicles, that's bullshit. Sorry to use that word. You've got to spend some time. You've got to be able to take safety first. And I think the fires that have happened primarily has happened in some of the, and I am not about China bashing, right? Doesn't matter. There are some companies, CATL, some of them make beautiful products. I'm not a BYD, as somebody mentioned. MG does some of that. I don't mind. But the point is that buying cells from China, which are DEF grade. I don't know. I open up all the batteries. I look at the packs. I look at what they make. Some of the OEMs have to be responsible. There has to be responsibility taken that, you're going to sell a vehicle for 30, 40, 50, 60,000 on a scooter, and it's not safe. I think if you use the right cells and if you use the right technology and you spend the time on R&D, you'll build good products. Now, there has been some fires in Tesla too, but they're very minimal. So my point is that, we are working with, lithium, we're working zinc here, aluminum here. We're working on, we are going to announce a major deal where cells are coming for our new battery pack plant from the United States, from a gigafactory that is more safer, that is built products at a very high level. Technology continues to change. I think safety first before selling vehicles, safety first before raising rounds of funding. This is important. This is, that person on the vehicle, Anand, could be your sister, could be my mother, could be somebody's family. And selling vehicles, it's a new world where, I see young gentlemen, men and women, and I support them fully. I've aligned with some of them recently, is that, just to raise funding, don't bring products which are unsafe. Bring new technology, test the technology, work. Panasonic will never, ever issue a product that is not well tested, right? I mean, some of the guys said in a lab, I've tested, 100,000 kilometers. In a lab, when you play cricket or you play sport, I'm very much into sport, putting it in the nets and putting it in the live cricket is very different, right? So I'm saying, let's make sure this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. Abhi to trailer bhi shuru nahi hua EV industry ka, whether it's EV, hydrogen, kuch bhi. People are very much in a hurry. And I can understand, maybe I'm in my 50s and, worked on Wall Street for 30 years. there's a hurry of young men and women to put products and raise funding. I'm saying that's good. That ecosystem India is providing today, and I'm loving it. India is going to be the third largest economy in the world, so no shadow of a doubt. My point is that we've got to be able to bring technologies that are safe, and in battery and powertrains and motors, we've got to be careful. And I'm saying that, I think that a lot of new technologies are coming out. This space continually needs to evolve. There are new and old players, but I think, and I think our friends in China played I was one of the largest commodity traders in the world at one time. If you look at where they have planned in terms of not just cell making, but the components of cell making, they've played it well, and I respect them for that. But my point is that there are many new technologies that are coming out. Battery prices, this continuous battle of, I agree, 30% of battery, the vehicle is a battery cost, but I think that this is going to change. Scale is going to come, and whether it is EV, we are working on hydrogen technology, we are working on multiple other things in R&D centers in Korea, Thailand, and Europe now. This is something that is important, but I have to keep emphasizing, please build safe products. And if it takes time, all young men and women, please take your time. Don't be in a hurry, because, we can really, really build India into a major powerhouse of EVs and other alternate technologies. And I think what we believe is that we have the people, we have the companies, the money is there. What was happening before, the money wasn't there. Now, if you have the right product, the money is there. My only concern is every day I get a new two-wheeler manufacturers coming in, and some young kid or some person says, I'm going to sell 10 million scooters. Guys, it takes a long time to do this. And I think safety cannot be decided. And so, Abhijeet ji said, that we should have, these boxes. Absolutely, the black boxes should be there. But before the black boxes, put products, make products safe, so that exposure, that black box is never needed to be used. I'm being very passionate about this because we've lost people, even if it's one. I think it's very sad. And I think what needs to happen is enforcement. Enforcement in the I spent 35 years in the United States and Europe. You drink and drive, your license is going to be killed, or you're going to go to jail. It's not that you make a mistake, you get a slap on the hand, you pay a small fee, and you move on. That has to come. And I'm saying that goes for OEM like me, it goes to MG, it goes to Panasonic, it goes to ZEISS, everyone. Sorry, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Uday, for addressing it with the right degree of passion that it requires. It's a huge issue, and that was actually going to be my next question, and you addressed it already, and with so much fervor. And I thank you and I applaud you for that. Absolutely, battery safety. And my suspicion as a writer and an observer of the industry is that the demand surge is so fast that there are startups and there are smaller companies who want to take advantage of it, and they are not paying the right attention to the safety requirements. Now, I turn to Manoj, who is into the business of quality assurance, among many other things that his company does. Manoj, from a quality assurance point of view, what does it require in the EV industry? What are the boxes to be checked?
Yeah, so I will, since we are discussing on batteries, and a lot of points have been mentioned as to how we import batteries from various sources and how to grade them and so on. So we have been working on this challenge with many startups and established companies in the two-wheeler, four-wheeler space in India. We have also had the opportunity of checking the complete individual cell or a complete BMS as a unit, as a failed unit. We have solutions available at our Bangalore plant to check the cells which are getting imported, to grade them, not only on the seat. Generally, the grading is being done only on the electrical voltage basis, the anode cathode voltage. But what is also important is the stability of the structural components which are inside. So we have a technology by which we can enable you to sample and grade the quality of cells which are coming in, and then fit them into, look at safety from a different point of view as to what is being provided from your import. So that is one area where we are focused. As it was mentioned, that 30% of the cost of a car is the battery pack. But 30% of the battery pack, the cost of one individual cell, 30 to 40% is the cathode. So if you look at the components, the 7 or 8 components which go into a cell, most of them are not yet made in India. So that is one area where we have to increase the knowledge and the skill level around these components. And also, I will request Abhijeet ji to see that there is a discussion on the PLI scheme where the government is providing the subsidy to cell makers, but not to the component makers. So not everybody buys components actually, and the component making itself is a big skill, anode, cathode, and the electrolyte and so on. So I think somewhere some directions have to come from the government to make the component makers in India. And we as a quality solution service provider have the capability in India, again, not in Germany or in my headquarters, in India, to check the individual components, qualify them, and pave way. Just one additional point is that we still don't make cells in India, but we are working with government institutes. We are working with lot of private bodies, a lot of private startups, as Mr. Narang was mentioning, and they are doing a great job. I don't want to name the companies. They're doing a great job in introducing chemistry, safer chemistry for the Indian temperature. See, the tropical temperatures have a different way. The same NMC cell could work very well in Scandinavia, but may not work in Nagpur in summer. So what is very important is to make the chemistry reliable and right for the Indian market. So we are working with companies in India, and also we are working with multinationals around in China and so on, working on the microchemistry and microcellular structure to make safer and more energy storage cells. So
Thanks so much, Manoj. Raman, your thoughts on it?
Being a quality controls solution provider, I felt really very good that everyone is focusing now on the safety of the product battery. Like Mr. Uday said, he completely focuses on the safety of the battery basically. So we in Marposs do have somewhat of solution also to check the quality basically. So what we mean by quality, the safety comes with the testing, as Mr. Uday said. So once the battery pack is being manufactured, yes, we need to conduct the testing facilities. Testing facilities, we need to focus on 2 different testing facilities. That is, first one is leakage testing. Leakage should not be there, whether at the cell level or whether at the complete pack level. So to ensure that your product is totally leak proof, Marposs is there to support you. Secondly, electrical testing, which is to be done. Yes, we need to have thorough electrical testing of all the components, right from the cell level to the complete pack level. So again, I would say Marposs is there to support you. One point which Mr. Manoj said in his speech previously, that yes, maybe 30% of the cost is comprises of the battery. And if we suddenly go down the level, cell costs, individual cell cost is really very high. So now government has introduced the PLI scheme also. We will be started making the cells here in India, but majority of the child parts, we need to be dependent on China only. Like if I say NMC cells, LFP cells, for the processing of the raw material, we do not have the technology as of now. So even we, as someone said, that we have the copper, we have the raw materials, but we don't have the processing centers available here. So in order to reduce the cost of the cells, we need to have the processing centers here in India, so that we should not be dependent on basically the China, which is the biggest hub of processing center of the child parts. Copper, yes, because anode material, cathode material, anyhow, government is supporting us a lot. They are introducing the PLI scheme of $2.5 billion. So yes, but yes, for the child parts, we need to be dependent on the China. We need to work on that.
Wow, Raman, thank you for those deep insights.
Yes,
Yes, please.
Seconds.
Yes, please, Abhijeet.
Manoj, your input is very well taken. It is very important for us to also develop the components. And Raman Upmanyu. I think not to you only, but to all of us, we very quickly wanted to share one important policy level technical discussion is battery swapping policy was announced in the beginning of this year with the budget. Within 90 days, with a lot of huge consultation, Niti Aayog also managed to put up a draft, which is under discussion and open for input currently, will be very soon notified. But as a pilot, National Highway EV had to have a battery swapping cabinet at all its stations. So we could not wait for standards or the safety norms to come and also the swapping policy. So we made around 12 recommendations before Niti Aayog. These 12 recommendations are made in consultation with Charge Point Operator Society of India. All of you can access, it's a public material. It has the description of all administrative, technical, and regulatory safety standards for battery swapping. I have already mentioned these two, the one which Raman said and the one which I said, the what we call black box. Few more recommendations are there. Any of you can download it from the Charge Point Operator Society of India website and reach out to me if there is something more need to be added.
That's the advantage of having. Yeah, yes, Manoj, please.
Yeah, again, I just want to thank you, Abhijeet ji, for accepting the point. I had one other point. I thought it would be an opportune moment to mention it to you. Is the new AA 156 standards which have come for cell and battery pack could also include a sampling of the incoming batteries to India to look at the mechanical structure and grade them. This could be a welcome move because if you have 600 cells in one two-wheeler or a three-wheeler, at least there should be a recommendation to check 4 or 5 cells as a sample, X-ray them and figure out if they are really having the right microstructure, right welding, and the right thickness of the anode cathode layers. We have a technology to provide that, and I can share more.
Very significant and vital suggestion, but I'll tell you one thing. My seat is a very hot seat. I have to maintain the right balance of regulation. Sometimes we get over-regulated, sometimes we get under-regulated. And in 2020, I was the one who stood with Niti Aayog and Ministry of Road Transport and Highway that battery and vehicle should be registered separately. In fact, industry was against me because they had their own vested interest into selling vehicle with battery. But now, since vehicle and battery both can be registered separately, we also can imagine subscription and battery as a service. So at times when we suggest something as a ease of doing business, people from the industry, they also have such reluctancy. So you are asking me that people who are going to import, we can stop their import, take out a sample cell and then do an X-ray. They'll be very, very uncomfortable.
No. They could, I'm sorry to interject. Please continue, sir.
So that you may have some other perspective of doing it. If it may be possible, it sounds like a good idea, provided I do not get bashing for proposing this.
Okay, sir. I could probably discuss separately on this topic with you later.
Sure.
Yes, please.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, please. Narayan and Samir, do you want to add your thoughts to this topic, Narayan?
No, I think we have covered, large, I think, fraction of the whole topic. I think the only point is to look at, as we started off, and I think as a very overarching concluding agenda is to look at the total safety aspect as the paramount number one agenda in the whole, development. So whether it is a battery or the overall ecosystem development or the, as we call it, the energy voltage system architecture, I think the whole agenda should be well integrated. So I think Manoj was making a point in terms of doing a quality check. I think these are all pertinent points, but I think as the ecosystem evolves and all these suppliers from the tier 1 to tier 2. So for example, Panasonic is at a tier 2 level. We look at components, and it is not only for India, it is for the whole global market. So from a overall regulatory standpoint for variety of components, so we are already subjected to variety of norms operating globally. So many markets in the developed world have already evolved and we have very stringent regulations. For example, we have a very important product called the high voltage cutoff relay, which kind of manages the battery disconnection. And it is a very uh, critical component in the overall system. Now, variety of regulations have already come in place when we look at the European standards, the warranty aspect of it, how many charge cycles it has to take. I think if we look at that aspect in totality and adapt some of that, I'm not saying all because we have to look at the Indian macro system as well. Large aspects of that agenda has already been taken care of. So whether it is a tier 2 components, electromechanical, or even the cell. So I think that's how the overall ecosystem will develop further.
Thanks so much, Narayan. Samir, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Narayan has put it very well because they are battery manufacturers. And what Mr. Abhijeet has told is also very true, that there has to be a balance between the cost and also the stringency of the rules. So we have to get a battery from the battery manufacturers. And as we make these norms more and more stricter, the cost of the battery is going to be higher. Mr. Narayan knows this very well. And like in some cases, like for the battery for ZEISS EV, where we are importing from China, and this battery is already qualified for European norms, ECE norms already, where we have cutoff relay and all these things already incorporated. So from those standards, it is already passed all the safety norms, but still we have to pass all the new Indian government norms. So all this has to be balanced. So Manoj is right, but to a certain extent, we also have to see the cost to the OEMs or to the battery manufacturers. And that should not overshoot. These regulations should not overshoot because the cost because of all these regulations. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Samir. Well, a riveting discussion is going on. I request the audience to share with their colleagues and friends. Mukul, I request you to share the link with the audience. This is being broadcast live streamed on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter platforms. Your friends can join in. We still have about half an hour or less to go. Now, my next question, my following question is about the EV infrastructure, which is critical to the adoption of electric vehicles in any country, be it India or Europe or any other part of the world. In India, however, we are lagging behind slightly, not slightly, but by a big margin, actually. The February data from Mint says that we have about 1640 operational public EV chargers. Now that kind of dwarfs in comparison, then everything is being compared to China everywhere in the world. So I have no option but to give you the China figure, which is more than 800,000 public charging points. And Germany is the one end of the spectrum in terms of technology dominance in this field. It has 35,000 charging points, which is great for a country, huge for a country, 1/10 our size in population. So of course, the EV wave or the phenomenon is new in India. I mean, we cannot expect miracles, but at the same time, the question is how important the charging infrastructure is to the adoption of EVs, and what can we do from a solutioning approach. Obviously, we cannot point at to the problems and lagging and this and that. From a very positive approach, what all can be done to address this situation? Let me start from Abhijeet.
Anand, you have asked a very important question for the entire industry. It is the backbone question which you have asked. So before I speak about it, I would have to put a disclaimer on it that these are my views. These are not the views which I am representing on behalf of government. And my views has been very, very different from what industry has done as of now when it comes to charging infrastructure. I believe that we have gone to a certain extent very, very wrong in direction. We have just jumped to compare an electric car with a diesel or petrol car. However, when I look at it, we should look at it as an ecosystem, which should always have a comparison with either a tram or e-highway or a tubular formation of mobility or a metro. But if you look at an electric car and petrol car, you will tend to do a mistake of comparing both of their infrastructure. However, EV would not get an infrastructure, would not have an infrastructure, and petrol and diesel cars would have definitely a very good infrastructure. In this wrong comparison, what right would have happened is very important for all of us to know, because now we are moving slowly in the right direction. When it comes to take a decision of EV adoption, there are two ways of taking decision, particularly business decision or individual buying adoption decision. One, you ask me to buy a car. This is an individual decision. I will take a lot of things into account. I will take finance ministry's budget into account, that how much we are going to get as a tax or rebate, subsidy, bank loan, everything. We total somewhere around 2.5 lakh rupees incentive to an individual buyer in a budget few years back. It did not turn out to be the way it was expected to be, because it is an individual decision. An individual mind would keep many things into account before buying an EV. Second decision is going to be institutional decision. If the industry asks your RWA, your society, your mall, your hospital, your university, your office, your building to have 20 chargers at least in the parking, that is an institutional decision. This can be mandated. This can be checked through potential because they have money or not. And slowly small patches, small ecosystem and small circles may grow like an EV area, green area. Now you still have a vehicle which is not EV, but when you enter those premises, you have to switch to EV. You have to spend a lot of time EV, non-EV, EV, non-EV. This gives you a lot of confidence. This gives you a lot of confidence into transiting when you are transiting from one city to another city, which is a very easy example of adoption, conversion. We did not look at it. We always looked at cities. When I came in 2018 as additional charge for project director in NHEV, I said, I'm not interested to work in cities. I'm interested to work on highways, and I will make sure that each charging or each charger would have at least 30% utilization on the highway. And also the capex which we will spend on the infrastructure of EV would reach to its break even into 30 to 40 months. People said, I'm mad. It is not possible. But now, since the captive trials of trial 1 and trial 2, both of them they successfully considered, they've successfully completed, and we know how the highway infrastructure and mobility goes. आपके बस का जो ड्राइवर होता है, वो जहां खाना खाता है, जहां रुकता है, जहां ऑनबोर्डिंग करता है, all points are fixed. There is no random stoppage. And if you predict that volume, if you predict that stop point, and then you put a vehicle and charger together in the ecosystem, on highways you are more profitable than EV, than in city. So this is something which we should have done 10 years before. But 10 years before, what we did, I do not want to make it sound political, but first EV charging station was opened by our former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh ji near Safdarjung in 2011. The mission name was National E-Mobility Plan or 2020, something like that. From 2020 to 2021-22, what you have created is a utilization of public charger is from 3% to 5%. National average, I'm telling you, 3% to 5% of a public charger which is not into a captive contract or captive use. And the break even of that particular charger is 40 to 45 years. We could not manage to make electric infrastructure business profitable before National Highway EV. Our first utilization from day one is 30%. People said you're again mad, you are daydreaming, you are just putting something mouth-watering. When we started to a station in Gurugram, their current utilization today is 72%. And we still commit 30% because we know that we have to take advance contract, we have to sign captive contract with fleet operators. In same equation, we have to also put down our fleets of buses and cars. So my take on electric infrastructure is, whenever you are planning an infrastructure, please do plan in a way that people's decision as an individual who will buy, who will not buy, should not be accounted. They should be discounted as a bonus, that if they came, good, but otherwise if they're not coming, please put up a fleet with this. Also buy vehicle. Do not assume people will buy vehicle. There are a lot of very good example. One example I wish to give, if you allow me another 10 seconds, is when we were planning national highway EV stations, I also opened two-wheeler and three-wheeler applications, expression of interest. People said, what you will do with two-wheeler and three-wheeler on highways? They are not going to go between Delhi, Jaipur and Delhi, Agra. These two-wheeler and three-wheeler were the part of the capital expenditure of the station. 20 two-wheeler and 20 three-wheeler each station are going to receive a lot of parcel from Amazon, Flipkart delivery on these cargo hubs. And then they are going to scan so that their parent company gets a ping on their API. And then they deliver in 50-kilometer radius of the station. This is now same people, same companies are saying 20 two-wheeler is too less. The kind of volume we have into e-commerce, there will be, all the time there will be a scarcity of vehicle. So we need to understand this, that these 20 two-wheeler and three-wheeler, once upon a time was very huge, unnecessarily you are buying, and today they have become too less because they have a captive contract with companies like Amazon, Flipkart, deliveries, and many e-commerce companies who could not deliver to tier 2, tier 3 cities on highway in rural areas just because of two reasons. One is the postal code reason. The address is not very easy in the village area. Neem ke ped ke piche. Only a village guy will be able to know neem ke ped ke piche kya hota hai. That's the difficulty which these companies are facing, and now this difficulty is sorted. So the penetration, if it is increasing, the employment which we are getting, energy which we are putting on, and also the environment which we are saving, then it is going to bring a lot of infrastructure, a lot of possibilities with the e-mobility. Last but not least, when it comes to infrastructure, did we manage to compare conventional infrastructure, which we call petrol pump, and electric charging station ever? No. We had a very progressive and very promising government, which actually works on the mantras of our Prime Minister: reform, perform and transform. And if you look at the very bold reform which Power Ministry did in 2018, is to tell people that if you wish to own a charging station, there is no license required. But if this will only be a document, a PDF on the website, then it is not going to change the sector. We tried to change the sector. We tried to dig up the question that why in this country, where PCU used to be a business, where people putting up a small phone, a landline phone used to be a business at some time. And today you are saying that the future petrol pump would not have a license. Why not entire India is adding up, getting queued to take a charging station? They have a lot of money in the economics of the microeconomics. They have a lot of land pieces across the highway, across the cities. Why are not they coming is because of three reasons. Nobody told us what is the design of charging station, what is the layout, safety standard, and other designing element of the charging station. However, in petrol pump, it is very, very clear. Today you get a petrol pump license, tomorrow architect will come and they will start the work. Because the more time you spend in construction, the more money you are wasting. Second, nobody knows how to finance an EV infrastructure, because you meet people into conferences who say we have 1,000 crore rupees. But when you go to your conventional bank, they say EV infrastructure. Sorry, sir, I cannot read even the proposal. So that's reluctancy of mainstream financing towards EV infrastructure. Last but not least, metro reaches to its break even. I'm quoting Delhi Metro, 8.5 years. A city petrol pump reaches to its break even into 2 and 3 years. But you do not know how many years it takes for a charging station to reach its break even. हम पेट्रोल पंप से कितना कमाते हैं सबको पता है, लेकिन चार्जिंग स्टेशन लगाएंगे तो कितना कमाएंगे? Nobody knows. So that's the third answer which we gave, that 36 to 40 months is the break even of a charging station with a captive charge on highways. The layout of the station is open now. It is in public now. I am glad that Gadkari ji opened so that all of you, you know that how third generation of a station is going to look alike. And the funding model of NHEB, which is annuity hybrid e-mobility, is going to tell you the best, smoothest, smartest way of funding and charging infrastructure without depending on the government funding. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Abhijeet. That's revelatory, and I'm so glad that I'm hearing all these views today. Samir, your thoughts? I believe you have to leave in some time, so please do share your thoughts on this and any other topic that comes to your mind on EV.
Sure, Anand. Thank you. Yeah, so I think Mr. Abhijeet's points are very valid, and I have seen this infrastructure development for charging growing from 2019 till now. So this was like one of the topmost point of anxiety in the customer's mind while buying the EV in those days. But as the things have improved, and as you said rightly that China is having 810,000, but that also depends on the number of sales in the cars in the country. So we have still very less sales to 10 years, and this government has also given a lot of incentives in that case. In our country also, now government is trying to enhance a lot of public charging infrastructure involving a lot of public agencies like BE, ESSL, PGIL, NTPC, etc. And private companies also has to come forward for increasing the infrastructure across. And like MG, we have tried now residential areas. We have now trying 1,000 residential areas across India. And with BPCL, we have now signed a contract for putting up the infrastructure also. And with all these schemes like FAME2, PLI, and battery swapping and other schemes from government, this can become a lucrative business as well. And as Mr. Abhijeet rightly pointed out, that these are different areas where highway infrastructure is totally different, where buses and trucks stops at the dhaba and charges. The last mile mobility for three-wheelers is a totally different infrastructure where they travel not more than 40 kilometers, let's say, in a day, and particular stations. Two-wheelers, three-wheelers, fleet, and two-wheelers, especially from Swiggy or Zomato and other, they have in a confined areas of the city. So all this, right from the two-wheeler to three-wheeler to four-wheeler and the buses and trucks requires a very different stages of development and areas of development of the infrastructure. And this we have to lure many more investors into it and give them a return of 24 to 30% in that case, where they can come up more. Other than that, I would like to touch upon, like from ZEISS EV, from the beginning, we have an internet connectivity. That was the first car, where we map all the DC fast charging stations on the screen itself. And when you are traveling from, let's say, Delhi to Agra or Delhi to Jaipur, you have the charging stations defined where the person can, fill the charging before the battery gets finished. So all this takes away from the mind any anxiety of the charging. Also, I visited one of the fleet agencies in Bangalore, and they have a very good central control system where they control all their 300, 400 taxis across Bangalore from a central system. And their drivers have no anxiety of which routes to follow, where the charging station will be, where the charging is going to finish. They even have a mobile van where they can charge the taxi if there is any emergency. So I think all these points will bring to India to certainly in next 2 or 3 years to a point that charging will not be a very big issue remaining in EVs, I hope.
Thanks, Samir. I appreciate your presence in today's conference.
Thanks,
I look forward to our future interactions. Thank you, Samir, for your
participation. Thanks a lot. Thank you all panelists. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Samir.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Narayan, your thoughts on the charging infrastructure?
Well, I must actually thank Abhijeet ji, who kind of took us through the whole journey, starting from 11 to the, where we are today, and giving us perspectives, all across, so how does the whole thing look at? Uh, I would not risk too much. I would also add a disclaimer, because these are purely our views, because we are completely into the EV charging infrastructure as well. I think first and foremost, 2 points. Uh, the Indian automotive landscape per se is quite different from the rest of the world. So we are a 80% two-wheeler driven, agenda even till today. That's one. Number two, making a apple to apple comparison with the, as Abhijit ji rightly said, from a petrol pump infrastructure, and we make a replica of the same in terms of the EV charging infrastructure, I think that would be not the complete right way to look at it. So if we are looking at, opening up 20 lakh, I think that's the one of the figure that keep on floating around. By 2030, around 20 lakh charging stations need to come up across the country to support the overall growth. My mind asks a very pertinent question. From 14 till today, I think the cumulative sales of all electric vehicles put together is already touched upon, I think, 15 million or something. That's the figure, 1.5 crore. Majority is two-wheelers, followed by three-wheelers. I wonder how this whole thing is surviving with 1640, kind of stations. I think that brings us to a very pertinent point. Unlike the petrol pumps, which cannot be distributed petrol cannot be distributed directly to the household owner, right? You cannot make a petrol pump line to fill up petrol at your house. However, the electrical energy can be really transmitted and distributed right to the doorstep. If you have to look at the 80% of the consumer, which are the two-wheelers, or if you look at the use cases, majority of the charging, with the growth of the range of all these vehicles also going up. So about 5 years back, we were having too much of range anxiety, right? Even in four-wheelers today, we have a range now which is promising around 250 kilometers. Two-wheelers has already crossed high speed is about more than 100 kilometers. So I think the whole charging aspect has to be looked at from the use case of the whole vehicles. So if we have to look at the overall e-commerce players, which are confined to a very smaller area, or the office goers which are doing a daily trip of approximately 40 kilometers or 50 kilometers, leave only the urban cities. But I think the charging can be, democratized, or can be decentralized away from the central charging station also. I'm not saying the charging station is not required. That can be an add-on. If you look at Delhi, about 10 years back, we introduced CNG. Even till today, if you look at the queue time at a CNG petrol pump is so high, and it kind of, I can't understand the downtime of the users. It is so high, and if you really ask them, it takes about 1 to 2 hours for them to really fill up. So from a two-wheeler perspective, my take would be it has to be distributed, right? To the home user, back to the central real estate societies that are getting developed. I think that is where it kind of getting restricts. If you look at the four-wheeler fleet, I think that is where we have a distributed or a hybrid kind of charging models. Abhijit made a very pertinent point from the highway perspective. I think the localized agenda where the person actually stops is something we need to build up a combined charging infrastructure, and that's how the overall ecosystem develops. So I think it's a hybrid model, as we are talking in India, always hybrid. So I think it's a hybrid model that we look at the EV charging infrastructure to really take off. I wouldn't kind of gun for a 20 lakh charging stations dotting the overall landscape, which is already crowded in a city place like Delhi or Mumbai, for example. It has to be more democratized, more decentralized as we move forward. That's
Thanks,
my
Narayan. Thanks so much. Uday, your thoughts?
Look, for me, I'm building the infrastructure. I want to be part of, rural India. I know, majority of the people are talking about Mumbai and Chennai and Pune and Bangalore. It's great. It's great. It's a great way to raise fast money. But I think if we want to get scale, we want to get a complete green energy and sustainability. What really hurts me to see is that Mumbai has got a worse AQI now than Delhi, and Delhi was leading the charts for the longest time. And Abhijeet and all of you, I think we all talk about it, but every year it gets worse and worse and worse. And I think whether we're going to blame it on the politicians or whether we're going to wait, we have to now start working together. Right. And I think this has to change. We can't blame the farmers. We can't blame the construction. We've got to do something. Right. We've got to do something about this because our future generations are at risk. Our kids and our future kids have to live through this. And I'll be honest, this green energy sustainability business is the best business to be in because that's where the future lies. But my point to you on charging is we've got to build charging not just in these cities. We've got to build it in Panchkula, we've got to build it in Saharanpur, we've got to go to rural Tamil Nadu, rural Karnataka. We've got to be able, and so I am particularly focused on bringing, whether it's OSME Link and my partners, everybody, what do we do to bring charging to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities? Because if we're only going to do this in the biggest cities, we ain't never going to be able to get to China. Again, I say I have nothing to get to China, but I'm saying that if we want to get that scale, or if we want to build an economy that big, we've got to go there. So I think, and also, building the ecosystem requires whether it is fixed, fast charging, swap. India is a very diverse country. There is no one solution. Somebody likes a jacket, somebody likes a kurta, somebody likes something else. This is such a diverse, for me alone, living 35 years ago, for the last 7-8 years, I've been here full time. It really has changed my mentality. This country is so diverse. The country has so many different needs. People's pockets are different, and I think we've got to really, really bring this to rural India. I am particularly focused on that. I believe that until we get this scale in tier 2, 3, 4 cities, we won't be able to do it. Charging infrastructure needs to be everywhere because that's only when this scale will come in. And for the scale to come in, we've got to build this. So again, I think I appreciate all the comments of these esteemed colleagues, but I think we've got to focus on rural India. And that is where I think the key battle is. Now, somebody said 25 to 30% returns. God bless them if you can get 25, 30% returns in this business. I've been doing this for quite some time, and it takes time. We will be able to make it, but 25 to 30% returns in the EV infrastructure business, in the EV manufacturing business, in last mile logistics, I would say God bless them all if they can get 25, 30%. मैं तो बहुत लाइन पे खड़ा हूँ, मुझे नहीं नजर आ रहा, मैं बहुत काम कर रहा हूँ on the front line. But you have to have a sustainability business. You have to have a business that has a longer term vision. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. You've got to keep that. And whether it's charging infrastructure, whether it's batteries, whether it is EVs, whether it's hydrogen, whether it is technology, you've got, and this is where I think some of the Japanese brothers, I worked very long, Seiki means precision. There is a long-term vision. But if somebody can get 25, 30% in today's market in this business, I'll give him a salute. It doesn't happen this quick. My numbers are not showing, and I don't see any numbers. I used to be a very significant analyst on Wall Street, but I think the charging infrastructure will grow. I was just last week at, my friend Raman at Quench had held a big event on emerging India, and there was a lot of charging infrastructure play. And there's a lot of work going on, whether it's the big boys at Tata, whether it's Quench, whether it's ChargePoint, all these people. I think there's a lot of work, but I keep talking. Let's build rural India. That's where we're going to be able to make this difference. This country doesn't live in the cities. It lives in rural India. Thank you.
Wow. Okay. Your point about the Mumbai AQI quality hit closer to home because that's where I do my business. So, and thank you for raising these very important issues. Manoj, I would like to know not only your thoughts on the infrastructure, but also from a quality assurance point of view, particularly on how they change from the concerning the battery from last mile solutions to the ones required for personal use. Manoj?
Yeah, so I think on the charging infrastructure, I think enough has been said and all very nice points on the PCO and on coming from the rural India. I mean, I had similar thoughts that they are the right ones to go from rural India where we have space so we can set up things. And the most important thing is the government must see how to make it profitable, because in India we would definitely need somebody to man it. Otherwise, there'll be pilferage, there'll be damage, and so on and so forth. So the overall ecosystem has to be taken care of. Another important point which came up, which is from the quality side or from the battery side, if you see, the charging time, which Mr. Narayan mentioned, is the most important thing. You may put up 10 stations in an apartment, but if you have 1,200 cars, and it's definitely not going to work out, and nobody would shift. People living in apartments would never shift, because this chicken or egg situation is going to continue. Now I'll take you back. So there are companies who are working in what is called as 5-minute charging. There are Israeli companies working, and they have made collaborations with Indian companies to see how we can take charging, how we can do charging quickly. This is also being done by some Bangalore-based companies. I'm sorry, I don't want to name anybody. Bangalore-based companies who are working with different chemistries on anode and cathode, completely abnormal topics, to see how they can, the logistics topic, the logistic part of it, because for logistics, if the goods are running, if the vehicle is running, they make money. So they want to reduce completely the charging time. So, you can have 500 stations with 30 minutes charging time, or you can have 300 stations with a much shorter charging time. So on the charging time topic, we as a company group in our headquarters, we do have researchers sitting and working on this subject closely with industry, closely with universities, to see how the charging time can be made faster. And again, it comes back to the chemistry topic. Again, it comes back to the microstructure topic. I mean, just to give you an analogy, the ions have to be put into a shelf like a bookshelf. So if you can put them quickly into the bookshelf, if the bookshelf and the path to the bookshelf is easier, and when you discharge fast, you have to pick up the books very fast. So it's a kind of analogy which we are working at the microstructure level to make this possible. And when people are talking about 5-minute charging, which is probably available in an Apple device, Apple keyboards get charged in about 3 minutes. And they work for 24 hours, 5 days rather. So I think the technology is available at a small level. It's a matter of time with the kind of changes it will come out. And if charging time is taken care, I think the infrastructure problem will be solved. And please make it profitable from the government point of view. Thank you.
Awesome, Manoj. Yes, Abhijeet. Yes, please.
Rush to reach somewhere at 12:30, so I will have to leave. I'm glad that you pulled us in this discussion. By the title of the program, I thought there would be some award and praising discussions, but it's very insightful discussions where we have contributed today's time. So thank you, everyone. Namaskar. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Abhijeet. So, gentlemen, Raman, your thoughts, and after that, I'll ask a quick question. We just have about 10 minutes to close this. Raman, your thoughts on this, please.
Regarding this charging infrastructure, it's a very good question to ask. Obviously, we do lag in the charging infrastructure. Actually, I would just like to share an example with you. I was traveling one day from my office to home. There was new petrol pump open there. So fortunately, I got the chance to have a discussion with the owner of that petrol pump, because since I am from the EV industry, I asked him that why didn't you own for this EV charging station, why you have applied for the petrol pump. So what he said to me in his language, bhaiya yahan pe vehicles kahan aayenge itne, first of all. So why we are not adapting to the EV charging station is, reason for that is uncertainty of the usage. First of all. Second, what I would like and what I feel also, we think that it's a huge investment basically. So no one is investing in that. Thirdly, what would be if like there are numerous of charging stations along the world or along the India, what would be the load into the distributors? Like if you say distributor, if I say the government bodies, like Himachal State Electricity Board, Haryana State Electricity Board, what would be the load? How the load would be shared? So these are 2-3 reasons in which we are getting the hindrance to establish a infrastructure. As Mr. Abhijeet is not here, he correctly explained that government has now issued a policy that you don't need to have a license for charging infrastructure. You just need to obey the guidelines which is being issued by a Ministry of Power. And like Mr. Manoj and Mr. Narayan correctly said that charging time should be focused. So in order to have the important like fast charging, we need to establish a DC charger source, not the AC charger source. So because the charge which is stored inside this battery is DC. So if we go into the conversion from AC to DC, it would be more time taking. So we should focus on establishing a DC charging source rather than the AC charging source.
Amazing. Oh, okay. So this is more like a Thomas Edison and Tesla, conflict, like DC versus AC. Awesome. And there's a great. So that I've got an audience question that I'd like to put to all of you. I'd start with Narayan. The question is, what are the top 1 or 2 things you'd like to see that could accelerate the rate of growth, EV growth in India? The top 1 or 2 things that you would like to see in the near future.
So I think one is, maybe just a common point is basically
yes.
it is the experience.
Okay.
See, if you buy a car, you were clear where to go and where to charge. You were clear the car would definitely run 15 years unless you want to throw it. People are, it's a personal choice. A car is still unaffordable for many, still it is in the higher rank. And people do have a choice even for the fuel pump. They say, yeah, this fuel pump is good, I will get good mileage. See, there are a lot of personal topics around that. And here we have to solve these 2 issues, that what is a clear lifetime, and in 8 years, do I have to really change the battery or not? And whether the warranty clause is good. So the experience has to be created for the consumer. And this is what, if you see, the OEMs are doing around the world by not selling to the consumer, but selling to fleets. So when they sell to fleets, they get a huge order so that they can work on scale. And also they can create a consumer use every day to at least 50, 100 consumers. So that's what is happening. So I think it is just the experience which will go, and I'm sure it is going to go exponentially. It's only a matter of time. It's a chicken or egg story. So
thanks, Manoj. Narayan, your thoughts?
Yep, I think I would say the rate of growth even achieved today, so I think Q3 of this year versus Q3 of last year shows a 4 times growth in 2-wheelers, and maybe I guess on the 3-wheelers it is roughly 2 times. Even the 4-wheeler is okay, small but still catching up. I don't recall any industry kind of doing a quarter on quarter for a couple of years by a more than 3 to 4 times. Having said that, I think it brings again to the pertinent point what Mr. Uday was saying. This is a marathon and this is not a sprint. We can further accelerate the overall EV growth, but I guess not at the cost of compromising the total EV ecosystem from a reliability perspective, from a safety perspective, from a human safety perspective, because I think that will form the underlying strong foundation as we move in the next decade or next 20, 30 years. Because this is an alternate fuel. People have been used to a conventional fuel for the last, I guess, 7 to 8 decades. We are moving to an alternate fuel technology, and it is quite distributed. There are various components to it. There's an energy component to it, there's an infrastructure, and there is per se the whole of mobility component to it. So all 3 in 3 hand have to be perfectly synchronized. We cannot have a situation that suddenly we accelerate, and it brings back to you must have seen on the WhatsApp, it was circulated that the vehicle is getting charged by a diesel generator. diesel generator is charging the battery and the battery is charging the vehicle. So I think the EV part per se, if you look at the overarching direction by the government, was to reduce fuel imports, get an energy security, and obviously leading to a cleaner, sustainable environment, etc. We need to look at that overarching things. So renewable power also has to keep up the pace, and we need to build up our energy infrastructure so that the electric vehicles finally land up with a good energy mix of renewables. I would not like the EV sector to grow depending on the fossil fuel growth also to take place simultaneously. So which we are just only trying to shift the energy consumption from urban locations and back to the utilities which are far off. So I think the acceleration is fine. And as we move forward, all the three ecosystems will have to synchronize so that, we make a very good overall sustainable agenda out of it. That would be my take on it.
Brilliant, brilliant insights. Thanks so much, Narayan. Raman, your thoughts on the top growth factors you'd like to see in the future if you had a choice on shaping the future that could accelerate the pace of EV growth?
Honestly speaking, like if I say the top growth factors, definitely the one we discussed previously, infrastructure. Charging infrastructure should be allocated so that we can gain the trust of the consumer that yes, we have the adequate sources, so that once you will buy the, like if I, for example, I have also bought a new car, right? Like 6 months ago. I haven't bought the EV. Why? Because I was also a bit of like in dilemma that once I'll go for a long trip, where I will charge my car. So this is just on every person's mind that why we are not buying EV is because we are having threat of not charging it on the time. So infrastructure, yes, should be on top priority. And secondly, what everyone has explained, that we should adapt to this technology. Like why? Because the pollution level is increasing day by day. We live in Delhi, so AQI, in Delhi is very, very, very high. Moreover, I would just like to add one more point into this. Not only the pollution level, air pollution level will be reduced from the EV. Even the noise pollution level will also be reduced. So overall, if we say we will be building a great ecosystem, not only on the air pollution level point of front, with also other noise level and other point of front.
Thanks so much, Raman. Uday, your thoughts? Yes,
Guys.
Manoj, please. Let Uday share his thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I think that clearly, what is important is, and I'll say this clearly, Rome wasn't built in one day. In India, we want to build it in 2 days. It takes time. You have a whole lot of infrastructure issues. You have energy issues, some of the points raised. I think, in my view, whether it is going to be EVs or whether it's going to be hydrogen or other renewable energies, this is clear in my mind. I welcome, I involve, I wish everybody join this journey. This is extremely important for the future of our nation. Not just building a 10 trillion economy is to be having this. I think, the dam is broken, which means there'll be new products, there'll be new designs, there'll be new technology. What has changed in today's environment is where a few major players control the entire automobile and the mobility business. Today, we have got a mixture of new players, of old players, and a lot of different people from different sectors are aligning forces. We at OSM personally believe in aligning forces together, and the enemy is green energy. This is what is happening, where we need to protect Mother Earth. I'm an environmentalist. From a hedge fund manager, I've become an environmentalist and a businessman who's investing all his money into this space. I think that what is important to understand is whether it is two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, tractors, airplanes, ships, a lot is going to move here. I think that we cannot I will always say, don't ask what the country can do for you. Maybe sometimes we should step up and say what we can do for the country. right? Modi cannot clean this country. We throw the garbage out. Okay, we all got to be part of the solution. And I think this subsidy and this crutch of government got to go. I understand a public-private partnership is extremely important. I want to make sure that we do our part. And I believe that if we all, public and private, align forces together in this journey, I think success is coming. Now, we have to give it time, and I would hope my good young friend here, when he buys the next car, it is EV or it is alternate. I want to make sure we build an environment, we build the ecosystem where whether he's going from Delhi to remote part of Uttar Pradesh, he has enough charging infrastructure. He has enough product where he's not feeling the range anxiety. And I think over the next decade, that will be there. And I'm hoping, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is to make sure that this is something that becomes a reality and that everyone in this panel and every kid that comes up buys a green energy sustainability vehicle. Thank you so much.
Amazing, Uday. Manoj, you were saying, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say that I think we are doing reasonably well, I would say. If you think 80% of our market is two-wheelers, we sell roughly about 1 lakh of two-wheelers in India, EV two-wheelers, which is definitely not bad, considering that it's about 5% of the total two-wheelers sold in the country. And if you go back to US data or European data is of course the best, because 50% is EVs, 50%. I mean, they are meeting that point. That again comes back to the question of affordability. In US, 87% is still IC engines. See, it's not that the IC engine story is going to be over. So there, the EV market share is in the range of 10, 12, 13% as of September 2022. Even in China, which is the EV hub of the world, it's about 73% is IC engines. So I think we are doing fairly well. And as everybody pointed out, it is a marathon. And as we keep going, suddenly we'll find that we picked up on smartphones and skipped the landlines. So we will take the journey very fast. That's my take.
Brilliant. Yes, Raman.
So just would like to add one thing. Uday has said that, yes, we need to have PPP, public-private partnerships. Why we need to have public-private partnership? Because investors will invest only if they will see there is no threat.
Thank you.
Because if government will be involved, they will have somewhat of upper hand that yes, there will, if the startup will not do well, there is certain hope. Awesome. And secondly, I would request all my viewers, all the viewers, that please focus on the quality, focus on testing, focus on having this complete ecosystem built up very nicely.
Thank you.
Please focus.
Thank you, Raman. Please hear Raman out, and thank you, gentlemen, for this scintillating discussion. From a media perspective, it reaffirmed my faith in the ecosystem, in the passion that you brought onto the board of discussion today. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a brilliant weekend, and audiences, you can watch this on all the social media platforms. It will be there. Thank you for your questions. Have an amazing day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anand, for
Thank you,
moderating.
Narayan. Thank you.